The beginning of the end. I remember the moment everything began to change. It did not happen suddenly. There was no loud warning, no visible sign in the sky. It was quiet, almost unnoticeable, but I could feel it. The same streets I once walked with peace now carried a different weight. The same people who once followed me with hope in their eyes now watched me with doubt, with questions they were afraid to ask. I saw it in the way they whispered when I passed, in the way their eyes avoided mine, in the way their faith slowly began to fade. But I did not blame them, because I knew something they did not. The time had come. For a long time I had walked among them. I had healed the broken, touched the untouchable, and given hope to those who had lost everything. I had spoken of love, of forgiveness, of a path that was not built on fear, but on truth. Some believed, some followed, but many did not understand. And now the moment of understanding was getting closer, closer than any of them realized. That evening, I gathered my disciples. They sat around me just like they had many times before, but this time it felt different. There was a silence between us, not empty, but heavy. I looked at each of them carefully. Peter, strong but uncertain. John, full of love, yet still searching. And the others, each carrying their own doubts, their own questions.
They did not say it out loud, but they could feel it too. Something was about to happen. "You have walked with me," I said slowly. "You have seen what I have done, but what matters now is what you will do when I am no longer with you." They looked at me, confused. "No longer with you?" Their eyes searched my face for answers, but I did not explain, because some truths cannot be understood before their time. Instead, I gave them something simple: love one another as I have loved you. It sounded easy, but I knew it was the hardest thing they would ever have to do, because love, when tested, reveals everything: fear, doubt, weakness, and strength. The night grew darker. A cold wind moved through the streets outside. The world felt different, as if it already knew what was coming. I stepped outside for a moment. The sky above me was still, silent, but inside me there was no silence, only clarity. I knew the path ahead. I knew the pain, the betrayal, the suffering, and yet I also knew the purpose. This was never about me. It was about them, about every soul searching for meaning, every heart looking for hope, every person who had ever felt lost in darkness. I closed my eyes for a moment, not in fear, but in acceptance, because what was about to happen was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. And as I opened my eyes again, I knew the final days had begun.
The Last Supper. That night, we sat together for what would be our final meal. The room was quiet, lit only by soft candlelight. Shadows moved slowly across the walls, stretching and fading as the flames flickered. It looked like any other night, but it wasn't. I could feel the weight of it in the air, a stillness deeper than silence. My disciples gathered around the table, speaking in low voices, unaware of what this moment truly meant. They thought this was just another meal, another night. But I knew this was goodbye. I looked at them one by one. Every face carried a story, every soul a journey. They had left everything to follow me, their homes, their families, their old lives, and yet, even now, they did not fully understand why. I picked up the bread slowly. For a moment, my hands paused, not because I was unsure, but because I knew what this moment would become. "This is my body," I said quietly, "given for you." They looked at me, confused. Some exchanged glances, others stayed silent. They had heard me speak in parables before. They thought this was just another one, but it wasn't. I lifted the cup next. The red liquid inside reflected the candlelight. "This is my blood," I said, my voice steady. "It will be poured out for many." A tension filled the room. They didn't understand the meaning, but they felt the seriousness because something in my voice had changed, something deeper, something final. And then I said the words that broke the silence. "One of you will betray me." The room froze. No one moved. No one spoke. The air itself felt heavy. They looked at each other, confused, worried. "Who is it?" one of them asked. "Surely not me," another whispered. Their voices were filled with fear. Not just fear of betrayal, but fear of what it meant.
I stayed silent for a moment, because the answer was already there, sitting among them. Judas. I looked at him. He avoided my eyes at first, then slowly he looked back. For a brief moment, time stopped. There was no anger in me, no hatred, only understanding, because even this had a purpose. "What you must do," I said quietly, "do it quickly." No one else understood what I meant, but he did. Judas stood up. His movements were slow, uncertain. For a second, it almost seemed like he might change his mind, but then he turned and walked away. The door closed behind him, and just like that, the night felt colder. The others looked confused. "Where is he going?" someone asked, but I did not answer, because some paths, once chosen, cannot be undone. The meal continued, but something had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by a quiet tension that none of them could escape. I looked at them again. These were the men who would carry everything forward. They did not know it yet, but soon they would. "Tonight," I said softly, "you will all be tested." Peter looked at me immediately. "I will never leave you," he said firmly. There was strength in his voice, confidence, but I knew the truth. "Before the rooster crows," I said calmly, "you will deny me 3 times." His expression changed, hurt, confusion, but also disbelief. "No," he said, "not me." I did not argue, because soon reality would speak louder than words. The candles burned lower, the room grew darker, and the moment came to an end. I stood up slowly. "This is not the end," I said, but deep inside, I knew it was the beginning of everything that was about to happen. As we stepped out into the night, the air felt colder than before. The streets were quiet, too quiet, and somewhere in the darkness, a path had already been set into motion, a path of betrayal, pain, and sacrifice, and I walked forward, knowing exactly where it would lead.
The Garden of Betrayal. The night had grown deeper. The streets were empty as we walked in silence. Only the sound of our footsteps echoed around us. No one spoke, but I could feel their thoughts. Confusion, fear, doubt. They didn't understand what was happening, but they knew something wasn't right. We reached the garden, a quiet place, a place I had come to many times before. But tonight, it felt different, heavier, like the ground itself knew what was about to happen. I turned to them. "Stay here," I said gently. "Keep watch." They nodded, but I could see it in their eyes. They were tired, overwhelmed, not ready for what was coming. I walked further into the garden alone. The air was cold, still. I could hear my own breathing. For the first time, the weight of everything pressed down on me. Not just the pain that was coming, but the burden of it. Every choice, every action, every consequence. I closed my eyes and spoke quietly. "Father, if it is possible, let this pass from me." The words were soft, almost a whisper, not because I was afraid of pain, but because I understood it completely. I knew what was waiting, the betrayal, the suffering, the end. And yet, I also knew why it had to happen. I took a slow breath. "Not my will, but yours." The moment passed, but the feeling remained. Heavy, unavoidable.
I stood there in silence for a while.
Then I walked back. They were asleep, all of them. I looked at them, and for a moment there was sadness, not anger, just sadness. "Could you not stay awake for even 1 hour?" I asked quietly. They woke up suddenly, confused. "I'm sorry," one of them said. I nodded. "Stay awake," I said again, but I already knew they wouldn't. I turned away once more. The night felt even darker now, and then I heard it. Footsteps, not soft, not uncertain, heavy, many of them, coming closer. I didn't need to look. I already knew. The moment had arrived. I walked back toward the others. They were awake now, confused, alert. Then we saw them. Torches moving through the darkness, figures behind them, soldiers, and at the front, Judas. He walked slowly toward me. His face was tense, but his decision already made. The others stepped back, fear spreading across their faces. "Who are they?" someone whispered, but I stayed where I was, still, calm. Judas came closer, closer, until he stood right in front of me. For a moment, he hesitated, just a second, like something inside him was still fighting, but then he leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. A simple gesture, but one that meant everything. Betrayal. The soldiers moved instantly. Hands grabbed me, rough, unforgiving. The disciples panicked. "What are you doing?" one of them shouted. Another pulled out a blade. Fear turned into action. But I stopped them. "No," I said firmly, "this is not the way." They froze, confused. "How can you let this happen?" one of them asked. I looked at them and spoke calmly. "If I do not walk this path, then why did I come at all?" The soldiers tightened their grip. I didn't resist, because this was never about escaping. It was about fulfilling what had already begun. One by one, my disciples stepped back. Fear took over. And just as I said earlier, they ran, all of them, leaving me alone. The garden fell silent again, but this time it was different. Not peaceful, not calm, but empty. I stood there, surrounded by soldiers, bound, taken, and yet I felt no anger, no hatred, only a quiet understanding, because everything was unfolding exactly as it was meant to. As they led me away into the darkness, I didn't look back, because I knew this was only the beginning.
The trial of silence. They took me through the streets before dawn. The city was still asleep, but something about that silence felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath. The soldiers walked quickly, gripping my arms tightly. Their steps were heavy, determined. They already believed I was guilty, but I had not spoken a single word. We entered the courtyard. Torches burned along the walls, casting shadows that moved like living things. Faces gathered, leaders, priests, men who had already decided the outcome before even hearing the truth. They stood above me, watching, waiting. "Are you the one?" one of them demanded. His voice was sharp, accusing. I looked at him calmly, but I did not answer, because some questions are not asked to understand, they are asked to condemn. Another voice rose. "You claim to be something greater," he said, "something divine." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Whispers turned into judgment. All around me, their minds were already made. I could have defended myself, explained everything, shown them the truth, but I didn't, because this was never about proving anything. It was about fulfilling what had already begun. They grew frustrated. "Answer us," one of them shouted. "Tell us who you are." Silence. That was my answer, and that silence angered them more than any words ever could, because truth, when ignored, becomes something people fear. They turned to each other, deciding, not based on truth, but on what they wanted to believe. "Enough," one of them said. "He must be punished."
The decision was made, not through justice, but through fear. As they dragged me away again, I saw him, standing at a distance, Peter, hidden among the crowd, watching. His eyes met mine for a brief second. Fear filled them, not just fear for me, but fear for himself. A voice nearby spoke suddenly. "Hey, you were with him, weren't you?" Peter froze, his body stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said quickly. His voice was tense, uncertain. Another person stepped closer. "No, I've seen you before," they said. "You're one of his followers." Peter shook his head. "No, you are mistaken." I watched him quietly, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with understanding, because fear can change even the strongest hearts. A third voice spoke, louder this time. "Of course you are. Your accent gives you away." Now there was no escape. Everyone was looking at him, waiting. And then he said it. "I don't know him." The words echoed louder than anything else in that moment. And just then, a sound broke through the silence. A rooster crowed. Peter froze, completely still, like time had stopped around him. Slowly, his eyes turned toward me, and in that moment, he understood. Everything I had said had come true. His face changed. Regret, pain, realization. He turned away quickly, unable to face it, and walked into the darkness. I didn't call out to him, because I knew this was not the end of his story. This was the moment that would change him, the moment he would never forget. The soldiers pushed me forward again. The crowd grew louder, voices shouting, accusing, demanding punishment. But inside me, there was still calm. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because I understood it completely. Every step forward brought me closer to the end, but also closer to the purpose. Because sometimes the greatest truth is not spoken through words, but through silence. And sometimes the hardest path is the one that leads to something far greater than ourselves.
The final sacrifice. The sky had begun to change, not bright, not dark, just heavy, like even the heavens understood what was about to happen. They led me through the streets, this time not in silence. The crowd had gathered, voices everywhere, some angry, some confused, some simply watching. I carried the weight on my shoulders, not just the wood, but everything it represented. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because I was weak, but because the moment itself was. Some people shouted, others turned away, a few stood still in silence, and then there were those who cried, not for what I had done, but for what was being done to me. I stumbled once, the weight pulled me down. The ground felt cold against my hands. For a moment, everything slowed, the noise faded, and all I could hear was my own breath. Then hands grabbed me again, pulling me back up, forcing me forward, because this path could not be stopped. We reached the place, high, open, exposed to the world. There was no escape here, no escape, only the final moment. They laid the wood down and pushed me onto it. The sky above felt distant, far away, like something I could see but not touch. They held my arms, firm, unforgiving, and then it began. Pain, sharp, immediate, but more than that, final. The kind of pain that doesn't just touch the body, but reaches deeper. The crowd watched. Some turned away. Others stared, unable to look, yet unable to stop looking. Time moved differently there, slower, heavier. Each second stretched, and yet passed too quickly. I looked out at them, all of them, the ones who believed, the ones who doubted, the ones who hated. And even then, there was no anger, only something else, something stronger. "Forgive them," I said quietly. "They don't understand." The words weren't loud, but they carried further than anything else. Because forgiveness, in a moment like that, is something few can understand. The sky darkened, clouds gathered, the wind changed. It felt like the world itself was shifting. Below me, the people still stood,
still watching, still waiting. But they didn't know what this moment truly meant. This wasn't defeat. This wasn't the end. This was something else. Something bigger. Something that would last far beyond this moment. My breath slowed. The weight of everything grew lighter. Not because it was gone, but because it was complete. It is finished, I said. Not with fear, not with regret, but with certainty. Because the purpose had been fulfilled, the path had been walked, and the meaning would live on. The sky grew darker. The ground felt still, and for a moment, everything stopped. Not just around me, but within. And then, silence. Final message. Powerful lesson. Sometimes, the greatest strength is not in fighting back, but in standing firm, even when the world turns against you. Sometimes, the greatest victory doesn't look like winning. It looks like sacrifice. And sometimes, the story doesn't end where people think it does, because what looks like an ending can become something eternal.